Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why LeBron James should take the advice that Shaquille O'Neal just gave him.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why I have absolutely no problem with what Phil Mickelson did at the U.S. Open this weekend. Loved it. Speak for yourself on a Monday starts right now.
Oh, so you're a sore loser just like Phil.
I'm a man of passion.
A sore loser just like Phil. All right, hello and welcome. We'll get to Tom Brady's Oprah interview and some shocking World Cup action a little bit later. But let's start at Shinnecock Hills, where Brooks Koepka became the first player to win back-to-back U.S. Opens in almost 30 years. But even that wasn't enough to get people to stop talking about how difficult the course played this week, especially on that brutal Saturday. In fact, a lot of players made a point of sharing their feelings about the conditions, including two-time major winner Zach Johnson on Saturday.
Where is the golf course right now in terms of fairness versus playability? Are we on the edge?
No, we're not on the edge. I thought we could be on the edge, but we've surpassed it. Yeah, it's pretty much gone. Specifically, the latter part of the day for us it's pretty much shot, which is unfortunate because it's, in my opinion, some of the best land and certainly one of the best venues in all of golf, specifically in this country. It's as good as it gets. Shinnecock Hills is beautiful, but unfortunately, they've lost the golf course.
All right, Cowherd, did the course and the controversy about the course overshadow Koepka's victory?
Yeah, because controversy always wins. I mean, look at the NBA Finals. A 30-second reverse call in Game 1, it lasted the rest of the series. We had the best player, the second best player, a dynasty, and a charge, no charge overshadowed the whole thing. That is the reality of social media, real media. I remember years ago, Bill Clinton came out with a book, 400 pages. One line in it was all anybody talked about. So, I mean, listen, the course, can you imagine if the Super Bowl, third quarter, football field's unplayable? It's going to overshadow the game.
I think they called a break. I was right there with you. If Charlie Hoffman had won, but when a guy wins back-to-back U.S. Opens, that's pretty incredible. That's pretty unforgettable. Hasn't happened in 30 years. Brooks Koepka at 28 years old just announced to the world, hey, put me right there with the young guys that have all this hype, from the Rory McIlroys to Jordan Spieth to Jason Day. I'm right there with those guys. I thought they got bailed out by getting a back-to-back winner in Brooks Koepka. That's hard to forget. I do agree with you, though. There was so much animosity and so much controversy about the course. And to me, it's like Sunday, we watched a different tournament than what we had been watching the previous 3 days.
It was clearly a make-up course on Sunday. So essentially, the USGA acknowledged, yeah, we butchered this. It's almost like in the NBA. If they'd have lowered the rims to 9 feet after Game 1, we butchered it. Or, so I just felt there was a stigma on the NBA Finals after Game 1. I felt there was a stigma. Sunday, I thought, okay, now you're just trying to make everybody happy. You don't really care about the integrity of the tournament.
You used the word essentially, but the USGA did just basically come out and say, we messed up on Saturday with our pin placements. They said they couldn't account for the wind, or they underestimated the factor of the wind. But yet, to have the USGA come out and admit, man, we got this wrong, and then to see them do a complete reversal. And Sunday, I enjoyed it much more, but it was a completely different golf tournament than what we had seen the previous 3 days.
Agreed. To another guy who wasn't enjoying the course this weekend, Phil Mickelson, after knocking a putt by the hole on number 13, Phil shocked everybody by hitting the ball while it was still moving so it wouldn't roll off the green. Now, after his round, Mickelson tried to explain himself and apologized, sort of.
If somebody's offended by that, I apologize to them, but toughen up, because this is not meant that way. It's just simply I just wanted to get on to the next hole, and I didn't see that happening at the time. I'm gladly take my 2 strokes and move on. How can you not laugh? It's funny. It's it's just part of the U.S. Open. It's just funny, and I don't mean it disrespectful. If you're taking it that way, that's not on me. Sometimes in these situations, it's just easier to take the 2 shots and move on.
Not everybody's buying Phil's story, including major champ Steve Elkington, who tweeted, quote, absolutely 100% conduct unbecoming. He's trying to embarrass the UAGA, DQ his ass. Whitlock, is this a ding on Phil's legacy?
I think without question. And again, if you're a hardcore golf fan, I think you'll get where I'm coming from. If you're a very casual fan, it's hard to understand. In golf, there's very few ways to be demonstrably disrespectful and to dishonor the game, because it's such a game of honor and integrity. But to me, this is Mike Tyson biting someone's ear. That's what this was in golf terms, and that's why golf people, I read Ian O'Connor wrote a great piece for ESPN.com where he demanded, this was on Saturday night, that Phil withdraw from the tournament. And that's how it landed with golf people. It was as disrespectful, as stupid, as immature as what Mike Tyson did when he was getting his butt kicked by Evander Holyfield and biting his ear. That's what happened with Phil Mickelson. And given Phil's status and stature on the PGA Tour, he's the Arnold Palmer of this generation. It was conduct unbecoming of his place and stature. This is what a hungover John Daly does, not the guy who's the Arnold Palmer of his era.
Well, the words define. No. Does Deflategate define Tom? No, the 8 trips to the Super Bowl. Now, does the Super Bowl define Nick Foles? Yeah, because that's as good as it's going to get.
No. Does it ding Phil's legacy?
This isn't Lance Armstrong where it ruins everything he's done. This is more Tom Brady. Well, not
Tom Brady
great.
would never disrespect football in this way.
By the way, Bill Belichick, cameras, deflating footballs. I mean, I look at sports. I think golf purist gets worked up over a lot of things. But golf purist lectured me for years that you guys overcover Tiger. Oh, really? He leaves, the sport plummets. I don't get too caught up on purists. I mean, I've been in television for 30 years. You can't play to purists. You have to play to casual fans. Guys like me is like, do you think he does this at the Masters on the final hole? No.
He did it at the U.S. Open. This is the Super Bowl for golf here in America.
Okay, he had an 81. He lost by 17 strokes. He was out. He's barely making the cut, Phil Mickelson.
And it's poor sportsmanship.
Maybe.
That's what this is all about.
All right.
But listen, did we not beat up Cam Newton after the Super Bowl for not cooperating with the media and acting like a spoiled brat? This is the exact same thing.
By the way, you're right, we did. And then a lot of people pushed back and said, get over it. A lot of people are angry, and a lot of people are pushing back like me, saying it ain't that big. The Cam Newton is very similar and very analogous in that it created this sort of what the hell moment. And this is doing the same, but I think there's arguments on both sides.
Cam Newton's reputation as a competitor and as a guy who can handle adversity was dinged over this.
Yeah.
And it's helped define him as a poor sport. Phil Mickelson's out there, again, his stature as the Arnold Palmer. Other than Tiger Woods, he's been the most important golfer of the last 20 years. He can't act like a spoiled baby at the U.S. Open. He can do it at the Phoenix Open. He can do it at the Memorial. He can do it at the Poulon Weed Eater golf tournament. Okay. But the U.S. Open?
Okay, at the U.S. Open, it is U.S. fans. They cheered him on Sunday. By the way,
that's a bunch of casual they were disappointed they couldn't take pictures of Tiger.
By the way, he's the most popular golfer in America, not named Tiger Woods, among the casual fans. Don't they have a say in his legacy?
They do. Phil Mickelson made a fool of himself. He did something that, again, the great players, the Jack Nicklauses, the Tom Watsons, the Curtis Strangers, the Hale Irwins, they're looking at this like they've lost some respect for Phil.
By the way, that's okay, but Tiger swore through clubs.
And made everybody a bunch of money.
Okay, well, again, money doesn't equal respect. A lot of people said Tiger was on something because he looked like Ed Reed in the defensive backfield. I mean, I kind of...
I don't have to beat up Tiger Woods to know that Phil Mickelson made a fool of himself out there. That was a spoiled, bratty behavior. It's not... We always think that only certain athletes in football or basketball can be spoiled brats, can be Odell Beckham Jr. We just saw Phil Mickelson act just like Odell Beckham Jr., just like Randy Moss, the things we didn't like about him, and he needed to apologize rather than sit and lie and try to cover it up.
So his first real miscue. Odell Beckham's had 9. Moss had 6.
Some are bigger than others.
Well,
you know, it's like OJ. Well, you know, there was that night in Brentwood where I acted a fool. We just gonna let that one go?
No. I guess my point is, as a casual fan of which there's a lot more me than Steve Elkington's, I wouldn't have done it. I don't think he would have done it on the Sunday, back by 1 stroke on 17. It's a moment. If he wins the U.S. Open next year, this disappears into the ether.
That ain't happening, all right, because that was part of the problem. He thought this course was laid out for him. Spoiled loser. All right, to a guy who wasn't around on the weekend, Tiger Woods. Tiger had a lonely yacht ride back to Florida after shooting 10 over and missing the cut at Shinnecock Hills. But even that didn't dampen Tiger's optimism about his comeback.
Our whole careers are pretty much measured as if you can win, 4 times a year. 1 year I did it 3 times.
Still convinced you can do it again?
Absolutely.
Why?
You've seen the way I've been swinging?
All right, Cowherd, is Tiger in some denial?
Yeah, I think all pro athletes, as they're not in their peak, are in a little denial. But Brooks Koepka, bigger, stronger, more physically conditioned to play 4 days without the physical baggage, and emotionally down the stretch, really strong. That's who you got to beat. Dustin Johnson, bigger, stronger, healthier, generally has been mentally strong the last 18 months. Listen, man, you got good guys now. And by the way, they're not the old golfers. Brooks Koepka looks like a linebacker. Dustin Johnson's an athlete. These are bigger, stronger versions of Tiger. And now Dustin did have the capability to melt down about 2 years ago. I think he's gone past that. I don't get that. I told you this on Thursday. I don't get 16-1 to win it. I don't get it.
Listen, I said last week, and I stand by it, Tiger's got a bit of a glass jaw. He's not built for adversity. He struggles. I was very disappointed Thursday and Friday. Although I expected Tiger to play poorly, I thought he would miss the cut. I'm going to take a beat and backtrack a little bit. The course was so difficult the first 3 days. We saw Rory McIlroy miss the cut. Jordan Spieth missed the cut. We saw Phil Mickelson melt down and make a fool of himself because of the course. Zach Johnson, as classy as they come, 2-time major champion, he takes a dump on the course. So I'm going to chalk up some of what we saw here to the course, the wind, pin placement. The course made fools of a lot of guys. It made a fool of Tiger Woods. That's why he's not ready. He's not going to read too much into what just happened. He's going to say it's the course, it was the wind, everybody had a bad weekend. I can still do this. Is he in a bit of denial? It requires delusion and denial to be great. It really does.
No, it does.
Be great. And so I'm going to stick with you, Tiger, even though I was embarrassed.
Did he take the yacht back?
I'm not.
Or were those rough seas going back down to Jupiter, Florida?
Hey guys, Jason McIntyre here. Before the show moves along, I wanted to tell you that support for the Speak for Yourself podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They understand that home plays a big role in your life and family. That's why they created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, with Rocket Mortgage you get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. It's convenient. Our trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. And in addition to getting a real mortgage approval in minutes, you can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you're getting the right solution for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply. Understand fully. Mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/speak. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
back. We're now joined by Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth, longtime NFL player and scout Bucky Brooks. Let's move to Baltimore, where people are getting all excited about Lamar Jackson after the Ravens revealed they've been experimenting with using their rookie quarterback at a variety of positions. Not everybody loves the idea. Bleacher Report arguing Jackson has become a sideshow, deserves a shot at the starting job, adding, quote, let's not pretend that Jackson's quarterback career will be helped if he catches a touchdown pass or runs a few options off the bench. It will just reinforce the perception that Flacco is one thing and Jackson is another, and that Flacco's thing is the one the NFL really covets. All right, Whitlock, is Lamar Jackson being set up to fail?
Yeah, by his woke supporters, by his social justice warrior supporters, not by the Baltimore Ravens. Although, again, I didn't think that was the right spot for him. But the Baltimore Ravens trying to get him on the field early, trying to use him in any way that he can help the team as early as possible, that's not setting him up for failure. That's actually setting him up for success. That's actually setting him up to showcase his abilities, get him on the field as early as possible, get his confidence going, get his teammates buying into him. What he's going to be killed by are all these people that want to turn anything that happens to him. If you read this full story, they got all the racial narratives going already. That's what's going to undermine his success if he becomes a polarizing racial issue rather than one of the 53 guys on the roster that can help him win.
I said when he got drafted there was a Tebow quality. I think he's better fit in the NFL than Tebow, but he'll be popular for non-football reasons. And Tebow became disruptive. That Tebow was good enough to play somewhere at the end. He'd won a playoff game 6 straight, and people were like, it's faith-based audience, the press is outrageous, the media swarms to it. Now, I think Lamar's a better quarterback at the NFL level, but I think Tebow and Lamar have some similarities. There are questions. Lamar completed 59% of his throws with probably the best offensive coach in college football, Bobby Petrino, who could get a head job and be offensively better than half the league today. You may not like him as a guy, but in the end, this is what I absolutely expected, that Lamar would create a story without playing. And that's what Tebow did. You were in Denver. Yeah. Tebow was not playing, and the crowd was going crazy for a decent Denver team. So this is what I thought would happen.
The biggest issue to me is I think the Baltimore Ravens are doing the right thing. I think you have to see the forest through the trees. And when you come from a spread offense, Kyle Shanahan, when I did a San Francisco game, told me you can really only rate one thing coming out of a spread arm offense, and that's arm talent. He goes, that's it. I know that I played 3 years of college football. I came in as an offensive player, moved to defense, played 3 years on the defensive side. It made me a much better offensive player when I went back to the offensive side. So you can actually understand the game if you're playing multiple positions. This is not a Baltimore Raven issue. This is a union issue because our union does not have the balls to stand up in negotiation to the owners. So what do? We get scraps off a Longshanks table, right? At the very end, everybody needs money, and you're like, okay, well, we can't negotiate insurance, and we can't negotiate long-term contracts, and we can't negotiate anything else. So how about less practice time? So now for a young player, especially a young quarterback coming from a spread offense, how is that guy supposed to develop in this league? You can't. It's impossible. So what do you do if you're the Baltimore Ravens? Hey, let's teach them the offense in its totality. Let's let them play slot receiver. Let's let them play outside, maybe some running back, whatever it is. And you're going to get a better understanding of protection, of routes, route combinations, of defense, of secondary play. And now, as you transition as an older player, you're actually at least learning the game that you're not going to learn if you're sitting backing up Joe Flacco for the next 3 years.
I'm worried about this because I think when you draft Lamar Jackson in the first round, you have to draft him with the intent to keep the main thing the main thing. If you're drafting him to be the quarterback and you're saying he's going to be the franchise quarterback going forward, you need to give him every rep to be a quarterback.
Who said that?
Who said? Well, they took him in the first round. They have to take that. When you don't just throw away guys in the first round as experimental players, you don't project. You get them on the field as something other. You only get 5 to 6 reps. First-round picks are guys that should be starters. That's why they're drafted in the first round. He has to be drafted to be the franchise quarterback.
Last guy in the first round. There's been a lot of first-round quarterbacks that didn't turn out to be the franchise quarterback. The main thing is winning. That's always the main thing.
The main thing when you take a quarterback, the whole purpose of taking a quarterback in the first round to get the extra years, if you're taking him to be a quarterback with long-term potential to be a starting quarterback. The only way he's going to be a starting quarterback, you got to develop him to be that. So every rep that you put him somewhere else is one less rep that he gets at quarterback.
Bucky, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are running the organization, hey, let's do what's best for Lamar Jackson. How can we win is their motivation.
But how are we sure that he's going to be so good at another position when he's never played another position? Well, we've never seen him play wide out. We've never seen him run the ball outside of being a quarterback. He's not physically built to be a running back. We don't know if he can catch passes as a wide receiver.
I mean, why did they take him in the first round? I mean,
I think to get him on the field as quickly as possible and help him win. I think they look at his skill set and say, while we develop him as a quarterback, we can get other value out of him at some of these other positions. And I also think, again, we're avoiding what I thought was a brilliant point by Mark. This is a way to educate him about the entire offense when you have limited practice time.
But look at how many great players went in the second and third round. Like, couldn't you take somebody later? Aren't there players more valuable than a slot receiver for 9 snaps?
If he's going to be that. We did this with Seneca Wallace when I was in Seattle. We took Seneca Wallace in the second or third round, moved him around. He was punt returner, slot receiver, whatever. Eventually, he became a quarterback. But when you take a guy in the second or third round, you're not counting on those guys to be central figures of your team. If they do, great. But your first-round picks, your first-round guys have to be guys that are long-term parts of your program. And if you're taking Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, putting him at other spots, it only retards his development as a quarterback. Like, I like it for the flash, but I just don't know if you get there.
If you can't get him the reps, and that's like, I've just gone through a 2-year stint in Denver watching Paxton Lynch, who everybody and their brother's uncle said, listen, this is a guy that's a 2 or 3 year project. And they tried to give him that job, and he couldn't beat out a 7th rounder in Trevor Siemian out of Northwestern. I mean, he flat out does not have the skill set to do that at this point. So my point being, if you take him and you teach him the game in its totality, even if he's not getting all those reps, if he could do the scout team reps and he could do all the other things, but if he's not playing on Sunday, that's not going to help him either. I just think this helps him along the way, understanding just conceptually football coming from a spread offense into a pro-style offense.
We haven't said the same thing about Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is being celebrated as a guy that's going to be the Ferrari to drive the Kansas City Chiefs to the next level. They didn't put him as slot receiver. They didn't move him around. They let him be a quarterback for the same thing.
Right.
His skill set, look, this guy was a run-around, throw-it-all-over-the-place guy at Texas Tech.
He's not a 4-2, 4-3 guy. And look, just keep in mind, the Chiefs went up to go get Pat Mahomes. Lamar Jackson fell into someone's lap at the very bottom of the first round. Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, 2 totally different quarterbacks, and teams did 2 totally different things to get them.
I always argued that Josh Allen and Lamar were projects over prospects. I can't believe Josh Allen went in the first round. He's not even close yet. I can't believe Lamar Jackson went in the first round. To me, there were 3 first-round guys. Darnold, Rosen, and way late first round, maybe Baker. I think he got overdrafted. I think Lamar Jackson was overdrafted.
We're going to end on that note, Colin Kuiper. We appreciate that. We'll get to his big board when we come back. All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and the founder of The Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the NBA, where speculation about LeBron James's future is dominating offseason headlines. And while a lot of discussion is focused on where LeBron can win the most titles before his career ends, at least one former ring chaser, Shaquille O'Neal, says he hopes LeBron doesn't follow in his footsteps, saying, quote, somebody told me a long time ago, they said, your book is already set before the later stages of your career. You can add index pages toward the end, but your book is already set. So LeBron's book is already set. He's done already passed up the legends. He done already made his mark. He has 3 rings. Cowherd, you agree with Shaq here?
No. His motto is what? Strive for greatness, not, whew, I reached the finish line. Do we ask billionaires, hey, you made enough, stop? That's not how Wall Street works. That's not how legends work.
Did Shaq ever say stop? Did I miss that?
Well, stay in Cleveland is stopping.
He didn't say stay in Cleveland. He didn't say that. He said don't be a ring chaser.
Well, what, should he go to
don't
Orlando?
Willy-nilly anywhere just to get a ring. That's
so
what
he should
saying.
go to Orlando.
No, he should.
That's
not
bad
what he's
business.
saying. That's not what he's saying. He's saying don't be a ring chaser. I did it.
Well, if
Make a decision
Whitlock,
that's...
can you define ring chaser?
Yeah, what does that
I
mean?
need a definition.
Well, in Shaq's mind, it means going to Boston and Cleveland, and I think Phoenix at the end of his career, just, I'm going to be the final piece, blah, 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 to someone winning a title. And he ended up jumping to 3 different places where he didn't get a title.
He was an old man.
Yeah, I understand.
Shaq is completely wrong. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Here's what he's not taking into account. When he began chasing rings, he was done. He was done being a star. He was a role player averaging like 10, 12 points a game and hurt all the time. At that point in your career, rings don't matter anymore. If Shaq had won a ring with Boston, nobody would. It wouldn't have changed his legacy. When Gary Payton won his ring with Miami, he was an old man. It didn't change his legacy at all. Jason Kidd was even a starter when Dallas won it in 2011. Didn't change his legacy. Legacies are changed by rings when you win them in your prime and you're the driving force. LeBron James is still in his prime. He's still the best player in the world. So for him, it would matter if he wins another ring or 2. It gets him closer to Jordan, whether you think he surpasses him, doesn't get there or not, it gets him closer. And if he doesn't win rings, it can impact his legacy as well, as long as he's still a top 5 or the best player in the world.
How can a guy who averaged 34, 9, and 9 in this postseason be chasing rings? I just don't understand. It makes no sense to me. And I think with
I can give you a way. I mean, if
Go
you
ahead,
went to
let's
Golden
hear it.
State, that would be rings.
Well, that would be. I think chasing rings is when you're not the driving force or you're not the first or second guy. That's when you're chasing rings. Karl Malone and Gary Payton with the Lakers, they were chasing rings.
But this is different, and what I just keep coming back to this. Charles Barkley keeps saying LeBron should stay in Cleveland. Okay, Shaq is now saying just stay in Cleveland. Your book's done. These guys were in their 80s. They were in the 1980s and 90s. They were dominant, and they're trying to protect their era. They're trying to protect their guy Jordan, and I'm getting sick of it.
Wait,
Michael Jordan.
They're trying to protect Jordan.
Yeah, they are. You know they are.
Does he need protection?
Wait a sec.
What does
Michael
he need
Jordan went to the
protection from?
finals 6 times in 15 years.
And won every one of
LeBron has
them.
been to 9 finals in 15 years. I know he won 6-0. I get that.
The point is not to go. It's to win it.
There is a level where you get to the finals 9 in 15 years. That is who's done that?
Well, Tom Brady surpassed Montana.
Jerry West did it.
Well, no, but Joe Montana for my entire broadcaster career was better than Brady. But when Brady got to his 8th Super Bowl, it's a volume.
But
I
he's
think it was
5
the
and
5th.
3.
I thought it was the 5th Super Bowl win.
Exactly.
Well, but again, but he keeps. I mean, if LeBron goes to let's get back to this, ring chasing. So. Where is LeBron supposed to go that wouldn't be a great team? You could put him on Brooklyn tomorrow. They'd win the East. Everywhere he goes, they're going to be great.
And to me, all Shaq is saying is, don't let the ring be the only decision, the only factor in your decision. Don't let that cloud your just. I'm not. I don't think he's saying it's not a big factor.
Shaq's saying that,
I think he's saying don't let that be the only thing, because I think he's smart enough to know he's at a different place than where Shaq was at a different place than where LeBron is. LeBron's still in his prime. Should have been the MVP this season. I think I could put together an argument though where I agree with Shaq that even an additional ring or 2 isn't going to move him closer to Jordan.
If he knocks off the Golden State Warriors in the West, possibly the best dynasty ever,
think about
he does that. I'm putting him over Jordan.
I think his book is already. Well, I'm sorry. We're in the show. Jason McIntyre has
You
number
know,
one.
Not a lot of people care about your book.
So you're telling me the Golden State Warriors, possibly the best dynasty ever, on par with the Bulls. If LeBron takes them down, it's just another ring?
No, I agree. I think it would get him closer. I'm not saying it put him over him, but it
right
would get
now
him closer.
it's 70-30. You're telling me he wins back-to-back titles in L.A., it doesn't move 20%
Here's
of the fans?
what Shaq is saying, and I think it's accurate. You can't catch Jordan. It's over.
I don't agree with that.
Hold on. You're assuming Shaq. Now, maybe Shaq does feel this way.
Yeah.
That Shaq feels like LeBron's number 2.
Yeah.
Because maybe he doesn't. A lot of players think Kobe is right there or above LeBron, you know.
I think he thinks he can't catch Jordan, and I agree with him. I think this last finals deal, and I know J.R. Smith screwed it up, but the way LeBron went out, and particularly with the support, the cast on his hands, and the way he quit in that game, it's over for a lot of guys. You're not catching Jordan.
All right, to Kawhi Leonard, who's made it clear he wants the Spurs to trade him, but might have a harder time getting out of San Antonio than he thought. Reportedly, both teams in his preferred destination of Los Angeles are concerned about Kawhi's health, which isn't surprising considering he's never even played a full NBA season. Whitlock, was it a mistake for Kawhi to go to the media with his trade demands?
I think without question. I think he undermined his trade value, which makes it even harder for him to get what he wants. He wants to go to the Lakers. Well, how do you get to the Lakers? They have to make a trade offer to the San Antonio Spurs that makes it worthwhile for Greg Popovich. Well, when the Lakers are sitting there where the guy wants out, and everybody knows he's never played 82 games. He only played 9 games this past year. His trade value, just because of his health, was already a bit of a question mark. And now that you've let everybody know that you want out of there, his trade value goes down even more. He's put the Spurs in a position where they can't, it's going to be a lot harder to trade him than if he had just kept this between he and the Spurs.
No way. Exact opposite is true. This is a business 101 decision. Essentially, the Spurs are screwed. I want to go to the Lakers. Well, we're going to trade you. Oh, you can't, because it's career suicide for a GM to give up anything for a rental player. Kawhi just said, no, I didn't like how you called me out. I'm going. This is what Kyrie Irving should have done. Now, Kyrie got lucky because he got traded to a great coach. Yeah. If I go, no, I'm going here and only here, you're done. I own you. Where can you trade me? I'm going to trade you to what general manager?
They don't have to trade him.
Well, okay, I'll wait a year. So what?
Well,
but in the end,
there's no so what.
By the way, you're going to get nothing for him? Or the Lakers go, all right, he's only coming here. We'll give you Kyle Kuzma. They liked him.
I agree with you in that I don't think Kawhi made a mistake at all. Because, look, he's good enough. Every team in the league would love to have him. If he went privately to the Spurs and said, hey, this is not working out, when you trade me to the Lakers, it wouldn't have changed their minds that they don't have any desire whatsoever to send him to the Lakers. Now, where I disagree with you is that they do have a little leverage. Kawhi's got a lot, but they have some too. Like you said, they don't have to trade him at the very least until February, the trade deadline in February. Now, they can say, look, let's try to spend those next few months making things better.
You can
they
try
can go that right. Or if they do that, here's what happens. The Lakers go out this summer, they sign LeBron and Paul George, and guess what? Eat up all their cap room. So then they couldn't sign Kawhi as a free agent. So then he would lose some of his leverage as far as saying, that's the only place I'm going.
Aaron Rodgers, best football player in the world, is trapped in Green Bay. We have seen now multiple stars, LeBron twice, KD, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving. They've all done this way. I want out. I want to go mostly here. The difference is Kawhi said, I want to go specific.
Well, that's the thing. Is it Lakers or bust for him, or is it, yeah, the Lakers is my number one choice, but
Clippers.
Boston would be good, Philly would be good.
He's
the
about,
Clippers
by the way,
I would
Paul,
settle for.
We've seen 9 guys do this in the NBA. I mean, good players. Paul George, they all got out. Yeah. These teams eventually don't want him in the building.
The one thing I think you're missing, Whitlock, is what does Kawhi Leonard owe the Spurs at this point? He spent 7 years there. He was a good soldier, okay? And here, this past season, he's got an injury, and his coach takes a shot at him in the media, his point guard, guys he's been in the trenches with for years, and Manu Ginobili as well. I just don't understand what Kawhi Leonard owes the Spurs at this point.
Well, I would have to argue that he owes them something, which I have not done. And so my point was, I think he's hurt the ability for them to move him on as easily. If he had gone to them privately, put his foot down, I think it would have been better to move him perhaps where he wants to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. I think he's made it more difficult. I don't think he owes the Spurs anything, and I haven't argued that.
Now, 2 months ago, the story broke, Spurs wouldn't trade him west. So how do we know that Kawhi said, all right, they're not going to trade me west. I want to go west. The only way I can end up west is announcing, I'll only go to the Lakers.
Yeah.
Because 2 months ago, the story broke. Popovich is like, he ain't ended up there.
Yeah.
And I think Kawhi and his uncle said, well, that's where we want to go. We got to control this situation. I got to tell you, I think he fits in a lot of places, like you said, but who in their right mind can make a deal for Kawhi now?
And what I would say, though, given his health history, I think it's high risk.
Do you think it's
The
high risk?
guy's never played 82. He just played 9. He just got into a year-long dispute with what has been seen as the best organization in the NBA.
So you really don't, you think he's...
No. I don't think it. I'm saying if I'm the Lakers or any other franchise, I'm like, well, damn. He's never played 82. He just missed 72 games or 73 games this year. And I'm supposed to trade for this guy and then give him a max deal eventually?
His argument...
There's a little... I could see... I mean, I don't think it's high risk, but yeah, you have to take those things into consideration. But you had to do it with Kyrie Irving, too.
And he's had...
He was the same. He was even worse. He was even more injury-prone.
And how did that work for Boston?
Yeah, but
that would be my other...
Well, let's see how this plays out. You're right.
Your argument's good in theory, but I just personally don't see Kawhi as a health risk. I see Michael Jordan missed a year. John Stockton missed a year. I see a healthy athlete who had a bad injury.
And had a dispute with his organization all year about that injury.
That feels
they
like
think he's healthy. He says he's not. They say it's in his head. That was never the issue with Michael Jordan.
I just think that's a separate issue than he's injury prone. I think that issue is separate, and you have to deal with that in its own terms.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock. Coming up, I'll tell you why the Baker Mayfield experiment is off to a rocky start in Cleveland.
And I'm Colin Cowherd. Cam Newton got heckled by some kids, and you know what? I like how he handled it. Speak for yourself starts now. Kids can be jerks.
Kids were jerks. We'll get into that shortly. All right, looking forward to this show. I look damn good. Hello and welcome. Joining us today are Fox football analyst Mark Schlereth and Tony Gonzalez. Let's start with the NFL. Some controversy in Atlanta, where Falcon star receiver Julio Jones skipped the team's entire offseason program because he reportedly wants an adjustment to his contract. Adding to the intrigue, Julio has been working out with Terrell Owens, who most recently announced he would skip his own Hall of Fame ceremony for what appears to be spite. Needless to say, Atlanta feels uneasy about the Julio-T.O. relationship. Cowherd, do you sympathize with the Falcons here?
Yeah, I mean, because players like and respect T.O. GMs don't, and coaches don't, and maybe owners don't. But players, especially perimeter players, they look up to T.O. and they think Hall of Famer, top 5 player. And they have personalities, and he had a personality. So we're... interior lineman, respected tight end who had to block, journalist, whatever am I. We look at T.O. and think, crazy person, but Julio Jones is like, come on, man. I hope I wear a gold jacket. So I think T.O. has some ability here to manipulate Julio.
I think that Julio's smarter than that. I think he sees T.O. as a tool and as a message to the Atlanta Falcons. Julio Jones' reputation has been he's in that Larry Fitzgerald lane. Reliable, just shows up, performs. Now that he wants money, he doesn't want to be seen as a Larry Fitzgerald guy. He wants to be seen as a little bit, you know what, I'm crazy enough to sit out the entire season. I'm crazy enough to be a headache for you all if you don't get this money right. And so if I'm the Falcons, I'm a bit concerned. And if I'm Julio Jones, I think he's chosen a pretty smart and savvy tactic here in terms of squeezing some more dollars out of the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, I'm 100% with you on who Julio Jones is, because I called a game of theirs last year. The players love him. The guy's a hard worker. The guy leads through example. The guys that he plays with at the receiving corps absolutely gravitate to him. The team gravitates to him. And he is one of the top players in this league without question. What recourse do you have if you're a player? If you outperform your contract, right, what recourse do you have other than to threaten to sit out or, to go work out somewhere else and just not show up? You don't have any other recourse. I guarantee you, if he underperformed his contract right now in 2 years, they would cut his money. And I've had that happen to me. I started a game on Sunday. They called me up to the office on Friday and said, if you don't take this pay cut, we're going to release you after you start the game. And guess what? every roster in the NFL is full. That's how we get dealt with as players. I have no issue because there's one player in this league that plays that position that should be paid as highly as him, and that's Antonio Brown. And then it's Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. You can argue with who's number one. I'll go Julio Jones because he's a big body. But after that, you can argue the rest of how they slot after that. But there's no argument. Those are the two best players in this league at that position.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and I think he's playing this beautifully. I really agree with what you said there. Maybe he's sending a little bit of a message to the organization because they know how he is, and I've kind of was branded that too. I kind of feel, obviously I played with Julio. I know pretty much how he thinks, at least back then. He is a team-first guy. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He's going to show up and work his butt off. He's going to go perform. He's consistent. It's everything that greatness that you would want in a player. And I think sometimes you have to send a message. And I've held out of camp, too. I've missed the whole offseason workout program over a contract dispute. Him being around T.O., it's two things. He's playing with somebody who's got a gold jacket. Greatness. You can never go wrong being around greatness. His mind is too strong, trust me, to let any type of shenanigans or T.O.isms rub off on him. But it's also sending a message to that team that, look, I'm with T.O. right now, and I am listening to him. There is wisdom behind T.O., whether you like it or not. He's got some wisdom there, and he can learn something from us.
Good people can be swayed. When you were playing, you were a hard worker. You got into a Rodman thing where Rodman was fun, and Rodman's intentions weren't always the work ethic. Didn't he sway you maybe a little?
Well, it certainly had a lot more fun. Going to Vegas and Miami. he showed me that side of it too. It kind of, that's why I say, I don't care what you think about T.O. or anybody else. If you can be around greatness and pick their brain, because T.O.'s got some good stuff. There's no doubt about that. He's a Hall of Famer. Then you can apply that to your game, whether also, too, like learning how to deal with an organization. I guarantee you Julio's going to get a new contract before it's all said and done because they need him on that football field.
No one's ever questioned T.O.'s work ethic. And so Julio Jones working out with one of the hardest workers I think we've ever seen in football doesn't raise a red flag. But Julio Jones talking to T.O. every day, and T.O. going, man, they gave Matt Ryan $100 million in guaranteed money this offseason. And Julio Jones is smart enough to know Matt Ryan's really good, but without me, is he worth $100 million? So they're about to burn up the $100 million they spent on Matt Ryan. If they don't have a happy, productive Julio Jones, they might as well set that money on fire.
Solution: 3-year guaranteed contracts. Solved. After 3 years, you outperform your contract, you get a new one. You get hurt, you're on the hook. You're on the hook.
Hi, I'm Alexi Lawless. I used to play soccer back in the 1900s for the U.S. Now you can find me talking about soccer this summer during the World Cup on Fox. Now through July 15th, you can get daily FIFA World Cup updates from me through your Alexa-enabled device. Just say, Alexa, play the Fox Sports Flash Briefing, and you'll get the latest tournament news straight from Russia. Alexa and Alexi. Now that's a winning team. Don't forget to watch the 2018 FIFA World Cup all tournament long live on Fox and FS1.
Also in the NFC South, been an eventful offseason for the Panthers star quarterback Cam Newton. Has a new offensive coordinator in Norv Turner, who's hoping to return Cam to his MVP form. In the meantime, Cam spent the weekend at a 7-on-7 camp in Florida where he was heckled by some kids for his infamous fumble in the Panthers Super Bowl loss to the Broncos. Take a listen.
Cam. I'm playing off. You do what? Oh, no. What happened to the Super Bowl? Cam. I'm playing off. You do what? Oh, no. What happened to the Super Bowl?
All right, Whitlock, you like how Cam handled those kids?
Yeah, I have no problem with how Cam handled it. I'm disappointed in those kids. They're trolling a person who's there to help them, who's there to provide some inspiration, some leadership, pass on his knowledge. And we've created such a youth culture that the only thing some kids can think to do is whip out their phones and troll this guy when he's there to help them. This makes me sad, to be quite honest with you. I don't have a problem with Cam Newton, who's, I'm sure, I don't think he's being paid to be there. He's there to help some kids, and they're trolling him. I don't get this. And no, I don't have any problem with what Cam did. I have a problem with whoever, if I was the parent of that child that seemed to be the leader of the heckling, that child would have a real problem with me.
Yeah, I mean, kids can be jerks. I mean, you see it on social media. When I was a kid growing up and I watched Johnny Carson or David Letterman, I couldn't connect with them. But a kid now can connect with Jay-Z on Twitter in 2 seconds and call him out. That's the culture we live in. Like, that's like a badge of honor now. Oh, I went after blank. I went after blank. There used to be a gap between celebrity and public. Now, just go on Twitter. I can talk to the president. He may talk to me back. I think that's just the world we live in. It's trolling, it's trash talking. Can you handle it? And the kids were kind of jerky. Tony talked me out of it. At first, I thought, Cam, grow up. And then I thought, you know what? This is the world we live in. Everybody's a troll. Everybody's a troll. Our president's a troll. Everybody's a troll.
Welcome to the land of trolls. I love it. Right. Like I said earlier on your show, I wish my mom was sitting right here because she's, black woman. This is old school stuff right here. Like I said, don't poke the bear. If you're sitting there, like you said, you're at a camp and he's helping you, and you're going to talk trash to the man, then be prepared to see what happens. Now, I told you, I have a son. I have 4 kids. I have a son who's an 8-year-old, a little overconfident. I could see him maybe doing something like this. And I would give all the permission in the world. You go ahead, you get right in my son's face and say something. Teach him some respect. Teach him some respect. This is just ridiculous. And anybody that has a problem with this is not from the old school, put it that way. Because this stuff is, to me, I think Cam did the right. Now, I don't know if I would have cussed at the kid. I definitely would have took him outside and been like, hey, come on.
That's where I would draw the line, is that you're in a position of authority, you're in a position of leadership, and cussing at the kid is not the appropriate reaction. For me, I always have to look at myself and I have to look at anybody else, like as a player or as a celebrity, as an analyst. I go by the rule of wolves don't concern themselves with the opinion of sheep. And you got to be able to take that stuff and be like, whatever. Now, if you want to get after the kid and have a little fun with him, yeah. But to cuss him out or to cuss at him, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's the message that you want to send. So that's where I would draw the line. If you want to go back at him a little bit and have some fun, a little lighthearted banter, I'm okay with that. But when you cuss at the kid, I don't think that's appropriate. Now, that being said, let me just tell you this. I have called my son, who is a professional athlete, but even when he was in college, I have called my son and said, and showed him or talked about somebody who acted, a celebrity or an athlete who acted inappropriately. And I let my son know that if you ever act like that, if you become a professional athlete, I will be on the next flight, wherever you happen to be, and I'll whoop your ass. I just want you to know that. And I've had that conversation with him, and he was like, I'd never act like that. Well, you shouldn't act like that. So there needs to be some parenting there as well.
I guess, literally, this virtually makes me emotional because I think of myself as a kid, and I was just a hardcore football and sports fan. And James Harris was one of my first idols, first black quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. And I just couldn't imagine being anywhere as a kid where I wouldn't be in awe of James Harris and just be like, oh, my God, I can't believe I'm standing this close to James Harris. And he's actually showing me how to play football. I just don't know where we've gone as a culture to where Cam Newton shows up. And again, Cam's made some mistakes and all that, and that's for the media to handle. But where a kid would think, another kid, let me whip out my phone, and I got a Snapchat moment where I'm harassing Cam Newton, that just blows my mind.
But we don't know, because Cam's pretty playful. I mean, Cam's a pretty big personality. Cam could have 5 minutes before that been having fun with the kids and trash talking them, and then we see this video and we're like, whoa. The environment seemed to me to be pretty playful. And then Cam turns around and gets in their face. We're only getting like 11 seconds of that clip. There could have been a 5-minute jovial session that Cam provoked earlier.
I'd like your point, and there's some relevancy to it. Looking at the 11 seconds we are seeing, though, I'm hearing a bunch of kids shouting in the background. Tell us about that fumble in the Super Bowl and all that other stuff. I just can't, I couldn't fathom it. I criticize athletes for a living now, but the great ones, and I guess there's a debate about how great Cam is, but I don't know. It makes me sad.
All right, welcome back. Now joining us, Fox Soccer analyst here, former U.S. national team star Kobe Jones. and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's talk some World Cup. Boy, the group stage has been fun. Landon Donovan felt the need to defend himself after taking heat from some U.S. soccer players, including Kobe here, along with some supporters for urging Americans to root for rival Mexico at the World Cup as part of the new endorsement deal. Donovan said he bleeds red, white, and blue, but played in Mexico and feels a strong connection to the country. Whitlock, you have an issue with Landon Donovan rooting for Mexico.
Not at all. And I don't get this controversy at all. Honest to goodness, who are we supposed to root for? Canada's not in the World Cup. Look, I thought Donovan's explanation made perfect sense. He played in Mexico. If you're from here in Los Angeles, I'm sure he's competed against great Mexican athletes. He's been influenced by the Mexican culture. And the Mexicans actually have the most passion for soccer, even more than American fans. I don't get where Kobe Jones and these other guys are coming from. Who the hell are we supposed to root for?
Well,
We're not in it.
Well, I'm an employee of Fox. I think it's safe to say we're rooting for Mexico because we're not in it. They're good for our ratings. Now, I never played, so I get Alabama football players saying, I can't like Auburn. But as a citizen, I see Mexico as an ally, and as a broadcaster at a network that has the World Cup, if you ask me, who do we want to do well? I'd say Mexico, maybe England, maybe, I don't know, who else? Brazil? To me, Mexico's one of the teams I've put my arms around.
I think you're touching on it. I think you're touching on the fact that it's what Landon represents. And we're talking about, everyone could argue that Landon is probably the most accomplished American soccer player that there is. So he represents the U.S. national team. And when he goes out and he says, okay, I'm rooting for Mexico, he puts on the jersey, it hits people the wrong way. It rubs people the wrong way where it's like, okay, well, we're not there. People are still hurting that the U.S. isn't there. And then they see, okay, well, cheer for our arch rival.
How's that Mexico's fault?
It's not Mexico's fault. I think that's why you see most of the people, look, I don't have a thing against Mexico per se, but I will not root for them. Don't ask me to root for them because they're my rival. I've been in the trenches against that team. Look, if he had said Costa Rica or some of the other teams within CONCACAF, I would have been fine for that. But they're my arch rivals. I've gone to war against this Mexican team, against El Tri on the field. So it's difficult for me personally to say, okay, I'm going to root for Mexico. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
And see, that's where the big divide is. He is a former player. We are outsiders. You know, as a player, yeah, you hated Mexico going into the stadiums there. Yeah, well, Landon Donovan's getting paid a lot of money to promote Mexico here, and I can understand where he's coming from. You know, and I run a website and we do a lot of posts on U.S. soccer leading up to the World Cup. You can't post on U.S. soccer now because they're not a story, but when we post on Mexico, we're seeing some traction. People know Mexican players from the MLS, so I don't think as many fans and outsiders care as much about this as players such as yourself and Carlos.
By the way, one of the things I actually like about your stance is when I watch the World Cup, I think sometimes Team USA, this recent team, there was a sense of entitlement and arrogance, and it drove me crazy. We played Trinidad and Tobago like we didn't care. Yeah. I'm watching Japan. I'm watching Russia. I'm seeing this all in. And I kind of like my USA players saying, let me tell you, this is visceral. I can't root for Mexico. I wish sometimes United States men's national team members all thought like that. Because remember, he's an athlete. I'm just a citizen. It would look worse if I was anti-Mexico. Shouldn't our players feel this way to some degree?
I mean no disrespect by this, and keep in mind I'm a soccer novice. I wish they were passionate about playing better on an international stage, more than hating Mexico. Yeah. And I know very little about soccer or whatever, but I think that the animosity towards Mexico is misguided. We as Americans and as American players, fans, whatever, we're the most powerful country in the world, and we don't have a great soccer program, and that's on us. And so I wish the energy and emotion was focused on that as much as it seems to be about Landon Donovan rooting. I wish the passion was about, man, why are we not in this World Cup, and why are we not one of the best teams, the most powerful teams? We have all the resources, and, to me, some of it just sounds petty and jealous of Mexico, a country that is not our equal, but they're in the world stage.
Wait. That's part of it. That's part of it. We are upset that we are not there. So we do not want to jump on the bandwagon of, okay, we're Mexico now. That's it. I cannot say, okay, El Tri, you're my team now. Look, part of it is also wanting to be the better side, wanting the U.S. soccer to get better. I love the fact that in the last time that I was in the World Cup, that I was part of the team that beat Mexico 2-0, and I still have those bragging rights. But I still call up like Jorge Campos, great Mexican national team players. We're good friends, but I always got the little wink, hey, we beat you, in the World Cup. That's something that's part of the passion between these two countries when they meet on the field. And that's why it's important with what Landon Donovan represents, that people are taking it to heart, that it's like, wait a second, you're like the representation in this era of U.S. soccer, and now you're cheering for our biggest rival.
But, Kobe, everybody knows if the U.S. were here in the tournament, Landon Donovan wouldn't be rooting for Mexico in any way, shape, or form.
Do that?
It would be all you. I think the fans have to know that,
I would
right?
hope so.
Yeah, it's just a paid advertisement thing. I think if the U.S. were here, nobody would even be talking about Mexico, at least here for the U.S. It'd be all about what's going on with the team and can we win it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you with that 100%. And that goes back to what you're talking about is it all comes down to the U.S. has to get better, over these next 4 years and get a result and make sure that we are in, this next World Cup. I know a lot of us are looking, to 2026. Let's make sure we make this next one.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Jim Jackson and Chris Broussard. All right, let's talk about shoes. Puma is relaunching its long-defunct basketball sneaker category, signing projected lottery picks DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley to multi-year deals. The company also announced that rapper and business mogul Jay-Z will serve as creative director for Puma basketball. Jay-Z has previously owned a stake in the Brooklyn Nets, about a half of a percent, and still oversees Roc Nation Sports, an agency that represents Kevin Durant. Colin, will Jay-Z lead Puma to NBA relevance?
Yeah, he's iconic. I mean, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, what do they got on the headset? A lot of them grew up with Jay-Z. I think he is Uber to the taxi game. He's a complete disruptor. Is that if I'm an agent and Jay-Z walks in and I got Marvin Bagley, who's cool? So what Magic Johnson, by the way, if Daryl Morey and Magic Johnson walk into a room, who's LeBron want to talk to? He wants to talk to Magic Johnson. I think Jay-Z is a disruptor. I think he's Uber. He's Amazon in retail. And I think it's a scary. If you're an agency, it's scary.
I think he'll help them land some players. But I think where I think this is misguided is there's this belief that somehow rap and hip-hop is the way to sell tennis shoes. And it's just not true. I don't think it's been true since Run DMC and my Adidas. The way to sell tennis shoes is through greatness on the basketball court from a player who crosses all demographics. Nobody sold shoes like Michael Jordan, and no one will ever sell shoes again like Michael Jordan because none of them want to follow Michael Jordan's blueprint in terms of being acceptable in every American home and just being excellent. And so we just keep thinking the NBA has swallowed the whole rap, hip-hop, and the shoe companies have followed in behind it, and it just doesn't lead to the kind of success that people think it does.
But see, I think the NBA's embrace of hip-hop culture is one of the things that's sparked it to be so popular now. I think that's why
less
it's
popular than
baseball.
The Jordan era.
I don't think it's less popular than the Jordan era. Overall, the NBA, I mean,
less
you only
popular
had
than
3
the Jordan
channels
era?
and 20 cable stations back then. I mean, but that's neither here nor there. The question about Jay-Z, no, I hope I'm wrong, but no, he's not going to resurrect Puma. Not at all, because number one, Jay-Z was even bigger when he was with Reebok. He had a sneaker with Reebok, and it didn't do anything on the court or off the court. And that's when they had Allen Iverson as well. Number two, big men don't sell sneakers. You got DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley. Remember Patrick Ewing with the Ewings were fresh. Shaq,
David Robinson,
Hakeem. The Tonics was nice, but they never sold.
And that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that.
Dwight Howard, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Big men have a problem selling shoes because, you know why? I can't aspire and grow up and say I want to be 7 foot. I want to be Shaquille. That's why in China, the most popular athlete at one time, it wasn't Yao Ming, it was Allen Iverson.
Yep.
Because they can relate to that. I think it says, from a business perspective, Puma has always had great casual gear, urban gear.
Exactly. That's
So
what
if you really want to tie the cultures together and get NBA players, I think the business aspect of it has to be on the court shoe, but lifestyle, a lifestyle brand. That's what Adidas sells. Adidas sells lifestyle. Yeah. So if I'm bringing in a Jay-Z and I want to connect the hip-hop world with NBA, it's not going to be so much I'm selling the shoe, more so than I'm selling the lifestyle and the brand of Puma. And now you got it all encompassed. It's not just basketball. It's skate shoes. It's casual shoes. It's wear. It's hats. It's everything. Now I think Jay-Z's impact can be a lot bigger.
Look, Puma had Vince Carter in 98.
For a short time.
2 years.
For 2 years.
But Vince was as graceful an athlete as you'll ever see. Obviously, one of the greatest dunkers ever. And he couldn't sell. And look, Nike's got the NBA on lock. It's as simple as that. Here's the news to anybody.
Jordan has the NBA on
lock.
lock.
Well, Jordan is the one that's when Nike took over. You remember Pony and Puma back in the day, Converse.
Got him out the way.
He had it on lock. Look, and one had all the street cred in the world with the mixtapes. They had dozens of NBA players wearing them. And the shoes looked pretty good. And they couldn't sell.
They couldn't sell.
You can't.
You're
Nike's
making
got
my
it on
point,
lock.
Chris.
No, I agree with you. It's not because of hip hop or anything. I just don't think anyone can crack what Nike has in the NBA.
Because no one, and we'll get into this probably later in the week, because no one wants to follow Jordan's path. This is where I question LeBron James just as a businessman. If he had stayed a little less hip-hop, he could have kept all of his street credibility, he could have kept all of his urban credibility, but a few less tattoos and just play it down the middle of the road the way Jordan did, I think he could have surpassed Jordan as a shoe seller. But no one wants to be in that lane. Everybody thinks you got to go way too urban in order to sell. What?
Steph's not urban or anything like that. No, very few tattoos.
Steph's not LeBron. Steph's not Jordan.
Doesn't
Steph's cute.
Well, he said he had to nurse you, but think about the timing. Think about the timing of Jordan when he came in.
Exactly.
It's all timing. Exactly. Because when he came in, it was all about. I mean, he kind of captured the world by storm. So when Nike put that whole program together behind Air Jordan, this was new, it was unique, It was something totally different. What we're seeing now, you tell me something that's unique and new about the shoes that's coming out, that draw you to it. You got kids right now who never saw Michael Jordan play, but yet and still, the aura around Michael Jordan, the shoes still sell. So I think a lot of it had to do with the timing in which Michael came into the league, and that whole promotion part of it is so different.
I think he was the first official
What I got on?
shoe, right?
Just look at this guy's shoe.
He got on the Adidas.
Oh, I got Adidas too.
That's classic. Where Puma should go.
That's classic.
That's what
it's
Puma
lifestyle.
can do. They can hit
lifestyle.
the lifestyle.
All right, welcome back. We're joined now by Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth and former Pro Bowler T.J. Houshmandzadeh. Let's move to Tom Brady, whose unusual offseason continues. In a wide-ranging interview with Oprah this week, Brady acknowledged that his playing days will be coming to an end sooner rather than later. But when ESPN posted his quote about it on Instagram, Brady responded in comments, writing simply, Cuente cinco, which is Spanish for 45. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick's future is also uncertain, with rumors swirling that Josh McDaniels is now the Patriots coach in waiting. Cowherd, who do you think will last longer, Brady or Belichick?
I just want you to say that in Spanish.
L45 is how I say that in Spanish. L45.
Yeah,
don't. No.
I will say this. Just because of nutrition and what you can do to your body, I think 41 is the new 37 or 36. It's like LeBron James, 15th year. His body, it's the new 11th year. So I look at Brady. He was the MVP last year. And he had 500 yards in the Super Bowl last year. We're getting caught up on 41. But you're seeing marathoners, Olympians, all athletes, they play longer. Tom created his own diet, So, I look at Tom and we're caught up on this 41 thing. Look at him when he talks to Oprah.Is he look 41? He looks 36. He looks 34.
My issue isn't as much age as it is, I think this offseason we're seeing a level of unhappiness and frustration from Brady that's new, and that could lead him to walking away. But the more this offseason is played out, the more I believe the frustration, the pushback against Belichick is because Belichick's on his way out. And when I look at the Josh McDaniels retention, him not taking that coach job, that to me is just the clearest sign. There's only 32 NFL head coaching jobs. And for Josh McDaniels to turn one down after he's already failed in Denver, that to me means he's going to be the head coach in New England sooner rather than later. So I look at this season as Belichick's last season, and Brady's making it clear he plans to play 3 or 4 more years, and I buy it.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, the way the league operates now, you don't hit each other, you don't practice that way, you don't. They protect the quarterback in the games. You can't hit him low, you can't hit him high, you can't. I mean, so there's a target about that big around. So, I mean, obviously you don't take the beating that you used to take even 10 years ago. No. So that part is going to lend itself to him playing longer. And, you know, he still has a passion to play longer. He's still playing at the top of his game. He said once, I've got all the answers to the test. Why would I quit?
Right.
Right? I mean, he knows the game. Here's the one thing that makes me think that Belichick will outlast Brady, is that coaches have this insatiable desire to prove that they are great coaches even without their great players. When I was in Denver, Mike Shanahan, John Elway retired back-to-back Super Bowls. It wasn't like they were fighting to keep John Elway. Please just come back for another year. Please come back. It was like, I want to go do this without John Elway. I want to prove that my legacy isn't tied to John Elway. Yeah, it didn't work out, right? So, but I think coaches, you know, I always say it, and TJ will back me up on this. You think the egos are big in the locker room? Walk upstairs. Walk upstairs to the coaches' offices, man. There are some egos up there. And so I just look at it like, why wouldn't he want to prove to everybody I'm the greatest coach in history? It's undebatable. And to do that, I've got to win without Tom Brady.
Now, if he does that, that's not going to happen. Players have to win the game. The reason Tom Brady can play as long as he wants is because of Alex Guerrero. That's why. Dr. G really knows what he's doing, and him and Tom have this cohesiveness. He understands his body. Alex is all about pliability and keeping muscles loose but strong. You want your muscles to be like titanium. That's what he always would say. Tom has been working with Alex so long, his body is not going to break down. He can pretty much play as long as he wants to. He's not going to retire at 45 because his body can't take it. He's going to retire at 45 because he wants to spend time with his family. He can keep on going. I think he can outlast Belichick if he wants to. If he wishes to play longer than Belichick coaches, he's going to do that. Because if Belichick tries to coach without Brady, it's going downhill fast.
You know, the other thing is, you said it, I think, sometimes rules change in sports or a culture changes, and it helps people. For instance, NBA has become very much a three-point league. Sure. That extends the career of a shooter who may not be athletic. Curry can play forever, right? In the NFL, it's a bubble screen league. The quarterbacks now, by the way, Breeze is 39. He looks like he's got 5 years left. You don't sit in the pocket. Go look at the old NFL films. Quarterbacks, 7-step. I mean, bullseye. Tom is the ball's out of his hands.
And we were 7-stepping when I was playing.
Right.
So I think
I used to get mad if like we chart the first 15 plays, yes. Right? You chart the first 15 plays. If we had more than 2 7-step drops, man, I'd be cussing out the offensive coordinator. I'm like, what are you doing making this? They don't even throw 7-step drops hardly ever.
I want to go to Mark's point, which I thought was fascinating about Belichick wanting to prove he can win without Tom Brady. I don't think he needs that for his resume, but I think Mark's point is he may need it for his ego.
Right.
That I can win without Brady. And maybe that's why Belichick is a little upset because he had it laid out with Garoppolo. He was going to win without Brady with Garoppolo.
Right.
Now with no Garoppolo and, you know, what is the plan after Tom Brady? I don't think he'll have that opportunity. I, again, will go back to I think Brady will outlast him. They stole the Garoppolo thing from him again. If he can find that lightning in a bottle again, I can't remember. Did they draft a quarterback in this year's draft? I'm not sure if
I don't know. They always seem to draft a quarterback.
I think they did the last round, the kid from LSU
but
Danny Etling.
Yeah.
Hell, if he can find another Jacoby Brissett, again, I would be shocked. Because, you know, I think he's a workable quarterback in the NFL. So I think that opportunity's been stolen from him, Mark.
It may have been. And we know, I mean, all this tension really over the last year, a lot of that has been with that Garoppolo trade, with the all of a sudden the circumvention of power that we saw in front of our eyes, and they can sit there and say, oh, it's all baloney and it's all fabricated by the media and nothing to see here, and it's the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But there's stuff going on behind the curtain.
His response, let it be known when he paused and was like, what? Oh, it's problems going on.
Yeah.
We can play and work together, but I don't like you anymore.
To Cam Newton, who has taken some heat this week after a video surfaced that showed the former MVP snapping and getting in the face of kids who were heckling him at a 7-on-7 football camp.
Yeah. Playing off, fireworks. With the what? Oh, no. What happened to the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl. Yeah. Playing off, fireworks. With the what? Oh, no. What happened to the Super Bowl? The Super Bowl.
Whitlock, we said yesterday there could be new developments in this story, so what have you heard?
I hate to admit this, but you were dead right yesterday. You raised a flag of caution and saying, you know what, there's probably a little bit more to this story. These kids being this out of line, there's maybe more to the story, and there is more to the story. I've got some context in that 7-on-7 world. This was Under Armour's elite 7-on-7 camp. Cam is there coaching his team, and he's done this for several years. And his reputation at this camp every year takes a hit because he coaches emotionally, he heckles the other team, he gets into it with these kids. This isn't the first year. And so Cam actually instigated and set the environment for the heckling he received because this is what he does every year. I was told that these kids heckled him all the way to his car. And so he's picking, and look, I've been to these 7-on-7 camps. The team he actually was playing this weekend was a team out of Chicago that beat them, and Cam threw a fit, said they used an illegal formation and made him come back out and play another play. Cam competes really hard at these camps, gets into it with these kids, and the kids gave back what they were getting.
What are you going to say, TJ?
To me, that's just good old competition. These kids not like, I coach at Long Beach Poly. I never forget this past spring. 2 kids bring up a video of me dropping the ball in the game, right? This is going to practice. And you start to be like, really? You going to say something to me? Make it through the first 15 minutes without dropping the ball. And the kid watching this, he knows exactly who I'm talking to now, too. He probably dropped 10 balls in practice. I said, you can't even go to practice catching every ball, and you don't drop 10. You go say something to me about dropping the ball in the game? It was all in good fun. But the rest of the week, every time he dropped the ball, I let him know. Every time. And that's what goes on. If you're going to say something to me, you got to give it, you can take it. To me, it was just good old competition. The kids have been messing with Cam the whole day. Okay, he probably got to look. You going to do what? Oh, okay, that's exactly what I thought. That's how I see it.
You know, Cam's an emotional player. I like emotional players, although generally I don't love them at quarterback. I would prefer a Russell Wilson. I like Peyton Manning, who's, I would say, not mechanical. I would say
robotic.
Robotic a little bit, personality-wise. Listen, I think Cam, and this has been one of my criticisms on him, he runs contrarian to the league's position. He's a receiver personality playing quarterback. That's why I've always struggled with him. He's not a precise thrower. He ad-libs too much. He pouts on the sidelines. That's what running backs and receivers do and linebackers do and safeties. So he's never fit the profile of the stoic, almost boring Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Tom Brady never gives you a quote. I just think it's been defined.
Tom Brady is super emotional.
Well, he'll pump his fist, but largely when you interview him...
He yells.
Yes.
Tom Brady yells.
He's super emotional.
Look at Cam.
Not like he's indifferent to Cam,
He is the most emotional quarterback in the league, and that's just who he is. That's his brand.
Like I said yesterday, if you get in that environment, sometimes adulting is hard, and you've got to be an adult. And there's nothing wrong with giving some grief and having some fun with the kids, but there comes a point where you don't cross a line. You don't cuss at a kid at one of those camps, regardless of what that kid says to you. You've got to be an adult in those situations. And the tangible skill set is there. I mean, the guy is athletically is the most gifted man on the planet. But it's not tangible things that end up winning championships. It's the intangible aspect of coach, of either leading a team, being that guy that you can count on, being a guy that you know emotionally is going to be okay and he's not going to get flustered in the game and he's going to give you a chance to win. Those are the things that set the great ones apart. A lot of guys, Dan Marino would get after you. Tom Brady gets after you. You know, I mean, John Elway was pretty quiet in the huddle. But there's a lot of guys that have that kind of emotion, but you have to have emotional maturity. And as Joe Gibbs used to say to us all the time in Washington, he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. His biggest mantra was lose yourself. And I always say, listen, from a leadership standpoint, look over your shoulder. If nobody's following you, you're probably not a very good leader. And those are the things, to me, that Cam continues to falter on, is the intangible leadership qualities that make people want to follow you.
I think you've made a great point, and I want to say, like yesterday, I was somewhat attacking the kids. Not somewhat, I was. I was like, man, I think this is inappropriate. You know, Cam's there giving his time. I didn't understand the full context of what was going on. I've been to these 7-on-7 camps, and where I think Cam is really faltering here is he's there as a coach.
That's the problem.
Not a player. And so if the players want to get emotional and do all the trash, I get it. It's the coach's job to set a tone and to make sure no one crosses the line. And Cam is carrying himself as the coach like he's a player. That's where I think he's really out of line, and where, again, having talked to some people that were on the ground, that were there at this camp, this is what he's done every year he's been there. And so,
because that's who he is.
Because that's who he is. And so some of the kids were expecting it. The tone had already been set from the previous years. And so Cam got what he gives out. You get the energy you put out.
Welcome back. Eddie House is back. We're now joined by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Trae Young, who just got put on blast by an anonymous scout ahead of Thursday's draft. The scout said he wouldn't touch Young, who he thought is closer to Seth Curry than Steph Curry. He also compared him to our friend here, Eddie House. Not sure how that's a criticism, since Eddie played 11 long years in the NBA and won a title. Whitlock, you think Trae Young will be a bust?
Bust is a strong word, and it all depends on expectations. If you're expecting him to be Steph Curry, yeah, he'll be a bust. If you're expecting him to be a solid shooter in the NBA, I don't think he'll be a bust. I think he'll be someone that'll play in the NBA for a while. Look, Seth Curry is in the NBA. I think he missed most of this year injured, but he's been in the NBA in Sacramento and Dallas. You know, it's now, look, this kid is falling in the draft.
Right.
He's a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I think it all depends on the system and who he plays with. Is he surrounded with other shooters and he's got space? In college, after he had that great start to his career in December and January, defenses changed and really focused on him and put a hurting on an 18, 19-year-old kid. I don't think they'll be able to isolate and focus on him so much in the NBA if he's in the right system. He has a chance to be a good player.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that scares me is who is he going to defend? The thing I like is he is fast. Ball in hands, he is fast. Maybe not John Wall fast, but he is fast. So I don't see him as a bust. Again, will he get overdrafted? It's almost like Johnny Manziel got drafted because of Russell Wilson. You know, guys get drafted because there's prototypes. If Steph Curry did not exist, you're not taking him number 1, and he may go there. So I think he'll be overdrafted. I don't see a complete bust, though.
I think what happened was the media kind of put him on this pedestal and was comparing him to Steph Curry, when the fact of the matter is we should have just been appreciating Trae Young and what he was doing. Nobody ever led college basketball in scoring and assists. That's extremely hard to do. I was 5th in my senior year, 5th in the nation in scoring. I was nowhere near leading the nation in assists. I needed to score. He carried so much of the offensive burden on his back. He had to do everything, and he did get wore down, and teams did adjust. And to your point, in the NBA, depending on the system he gets in, the coaching, the teachers that are going to be around him, and the other players, I think he'll be able to thrive if he's in the right system. I still think that he's a really, really good passer. Not sure if the offense is going to translate that fast in the NBA, but him finding guys and having the ability to pass guys open, I think that'll still be there.
Yeah, I'd agree. Fairly good bust potential. If he goes to the wrong, team, listen, you go to Sacramento, we know you fall off the map quickly. Remember De'Aaron Fox? Kentucky, awesome point guard, goes to Sacramento. Did you hear his name at all
I
last
thought he
year?
played well.
Yeah, he was all right, but, Trae Young goes to Orlando. Some people are predicting 6. I'm telling you, man, that's a nightmare for Trae Young. But I think on the upside, he could be a Mike Bibby-type player, a good, solid player, not an all-star, who has a nice 10-year career and is one of 3 or 4 good players on a decent team.
What I wish was available to Trae Young, which I don't think is available, in his own mind, because, again, his expectations matter as well. If he comes into the league thinking about being a scorer, and he says, I want to lead the league in scoring and assists, that may be too much for him. If he came into the league with a different mindset, and this is an incredible high bar to reach, but if this thought had ever crossed his mind, I could see him being more John Stockton than Steph Curry. But I don't even think he's even remotely thinking that way. And look, you got to be blessed to have a Karl Malone to run alongside you to be John Stockton. But if he wasn't a guy, if he's not thinking about leading the league in score, could this be a guy that could average 15, 16 points and 10 assists at the peak of his career the way Stockton did? But I don't even think that's crossing his mind.
If you look at point guards, because point guards have the ball, they're the quarterbacks of basketball. Yeah. It really is going to come down to this, above the shoulders. The reason that Westbrook struggles, he struggles emotionally. He lives in a tunnel. The reason Steph doesn't, he recruits KD. He doesn't live in a tunnel. John Wall has struggled with maturity. That's neck up. Other players, Mike Conley, limited, has been great, mature, great leader. When you become a quarterback or a point guard, we always pay attention to the body and the game. That's a leadership position, and to your point, I remember hearing a couple things this year. He wasn't always the best teammate. That, to me, is a roadblock. Because even though I don't like his defense, it's not like Kyrie shuts you down. It's not like Steph shuts you down. If he comes into this league, right mindset, mature, want to be a great teammate, it'll work.
But that's going to be tough for him because this is a guy at Oklahoma who had the green light as soon as he crossed half court. Take any shot you want, do whatever you can. And to all of a sudden switch and pivot to being pass first, that's going to be tough, especially on a team, top 10 like Atlanta, Orlando. They don't have many players. I think he's going to struggle out of the gate.
I think if he comes in with the wrong mindset, like you guys said, and saying, hey, I need to score and not get everybody else involved and be like the quarterback or be the guy that's, let's go out to dinner, guys, bring everybody together.
Right.
You could be on a bad team, but you can still play well and try to help each other out, and people see that. You're always auditioning for the 29 other teams as well when you're playing. So he has to go out there with the right mindset, get everybody involved, and then the scoring will come.
All right, to another guy who's no stranger to criticism, Dwight Howard, who reportedly has been traded to the Nets in exchange for Timofey Mozgov and 2 second-round picks. Just a few years ago, Howard was the most dominant big man in the league, but is about to be on his 4th team in 4 years, while the league has been overtaken by the Steph Currys of the world. Cowherd, are big men still relevant in the NBA?
Yeah, they're just not crucial. Size and length, situationally, matters. There are matchups and moments. You can attack Golden State. I mean, let's be honest. One of the things LeBron has struggled with is when you have a big, he doesn't finish at the rim, you force him to shoot jumpers, he loses confidence. I mean, Roy Hibbert gave LeBron trouble for a couple years. Size matters, but I think it's more situational, it's relevant, but it's not crucial.
When I heard this story today, traded to the Nets, what is this, 6th, 7th team for Dwight Howard, the premier big man, 6th team for Dwight Howard, the premier big man since Shaq. And so the last 15 years, and he's on his 6th team, and I'm thinking the NBA draft, they're talking about 3 relatively big players going at the top of the draft, and I'm like, what are they doing? And I know Ayton and these guys play different than Dwight Howard, but the league has moved away from the big man, and I just don't think they're nearly as relevant or as important. I look at these guys, they're talking about Bagley, Ayton, Mo Bamba, or none of these guys are Anthony Davis to me. And so, they're not Dwight Howard either, but I just don't get it. buyer beware on the big man?
I think the big men are still relevant. It's just we're watching the evolution of the big man. The traditional big man go down to the block, protect the rim, show on a pick and roll, and get back to the paint. That's long gone. What we're seeing now is the evolution as far as now they're becoming more athletic. Now you can switch 1 through 5. They'll be able to play on the perimeter. The bigs can run a pick and pop, also run a pick and roll, and they could roll and replace with 2 different big men. So it's a lot of things that these bigs can do now that the traditional ones, not saying that they couldn't do it, they just weren't allowed to do it. They were, hey, no, you get on the block, big fella. Just like the biggest kid in CYO basketball or youth basketball, first thing you do, get to the block. And nowadays, they're not doing that. They're saying, hey, can you shoot, big fella? All right, cool. That helps us. So I think that's what's happening now is that we're seeing these guys evolve into a new age center, a center that can pick and pop, a center that can shoot threes, one that's really athletic, one that can run the floor and not just stuck in the paint. Like you look at what Dwight Howard does and compare it to what DeAndre Ayton will be able to do, you'll see the evolution of the center.
I would totally agree, and I would add to that, like, listen, the back-to-the-basket guy, the Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, those dudes are dead. They're dinosaurs in the NBA now.
They're guards now.
Yeah, and if you see the evolution of Anthony Davis, he came into the league, didn't shoot a lot of threes. He's jacking threes now, okay? Boogie Cousins shot like no three-pointers when he got into the league. He's out shooting threes now. And to your good point about the draft guys, when Mo Bamba puts out a video of his workout, all you see is him shooting threes. Marvin Bagley on the perimeter. Hey, look, we can shoot threes. That's what they want to tell teams.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton, look at my touch, look at my form. And it's like they're not showing their big man capabilities. There's no Rudy Gobert action here, right? There's no Clint Capella. It's all about shooting.
I was talking to Mark Few, the coach at Gonzaga, a couple years ago. He goes, listen, man, their parents have a 7-foot kid. Hey, we're not going back to the basket. It's like parents have figured out, I want my kid shooting jumpers because that's where you get on TV, make your money, and get your shoe deals.
Does anyone besides me and McIntyre, though, turn a skeptical eye at these 3 guys we have pegged at the top of the draft? Because I just don't, do they matter in terms of winning championships?
The only guy I think, Marvin Bagley at Duke to me, is the only guy I watch in this draft, and I'm like, that guy feels like a great player and a great team. He's the only one I've seen.
But I don't think he's going to be on a great team.
Well, no, not
Obviously,
initially.
He's going to be on a pretty bad team. Same thing. I've seen them all. I cover college basketball with XM Radio, and I've seen Ayton with the Pac-12 network as well, up close and personal, live, and he is going to be a factor in this league. I don't think you can go wrong with either Ayton or Bagley. If you was to pick either one, it's depending on what do you want out of that. You know, what kind of player do you want? Do you want a guy that can run the floor or not?
All right, welcome back. Time for last call. Let's move to Phil Mickelson, who finally apologized 4 days after hitting a moving ball at the U.S. Open, then telling everyone who was mad about it to toughen up. Cowherd, did Phil need to say he was sorry for this?
No, but he got pressure from all the rigid golf purists, and this is what golf is. It's no fun. I mean, that 4 seconds.
Oh, that's fun. Cheating is fun. Disrespecting the game is fun. That's what that was.
Cheating is when cheating is doing something that I can't see. That's not cheating.
Well, he disrespected the game.
Oh,
that's
disrespected.
He needed to apologize. Phil, good job.
I wish he would have thrown his club and swore and done that.
All right, to the World Cup, where Ronaldo has been incredible so far, scoring his 4th goal of the tournament in Portugal's 1-0 win over Morocco. Cowherd, would you rather have Ronaldo's looks or talent?
Talent. Looks overrated.
I agree. I've got the look, so I don't need that. I need the talent, and so I would rather have his talent.
Looks, if you were great looking as a kid, you'd be just lazy because everything came easy.
That's
talent,
true.
Ugly and talent has gotten me a long way.
Yeah, talent can make you look good, actually. You know, LeBron ain't a very good-looking guy, but he's so talented, no one cares. I mean, seriously, he had that beard.
That's terrible.
He's lost his hair, the whole 9.
He's a handsome man.
He was blessed to look like me. My God, he'd be as popular as Jordan.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.